Okay, so like, have you ever noticed how easy it is to kind of, I don't know, jump to conclusions about people, like just based on like a tiny little sliver of their life?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like we all do it, right? Especially with things like, oh, they're struggling financially or experiencing homelessness. We think we know the whole story, but
Right.
right.
It's like our brains are wired to make those snap judgments.
Exactly. And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're tackling Christian and Eyre's review of The Maid by Stephanie Land. But like, we're going way beyond just the typical book review stuff.
Yeah, this isn't just, oh, I read the book and here are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Ayer really digs into Land's experience as a single mom navigating poverty.
And like he pulls out these unexpected lessons, stuff about resilience and empathy, and even like how we view the systems we kind of take for granted.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from those tougher questions.
Okay, so like right off the bat, Eyre jumps into this whole thing about challenging those preconceived notions. We were just talking about that, right?
Yeah,
Like he flat out says it. We often have these totally warped views about poverty and homelessness.
yeah, and those stereotypes, like, they're comfy, like we fall back on them, but they're actually really dangerous. They make it so we don't even see the human beings anymore.
It's dehumanizing.
Exactly. It's like,
Right.
how can you even start to understand someone if you're looking at them through that lens?
And Eyre, he tells this, oh my gosh, this one anecdote from the book that really stuck with me. So picture this. Stephanie Land, working her tail off, cleaning houses, and someone, get this, someone questions if she can even read
Oh, wow.
just because of her job.
It just shows you how deeply ingrained some of these prejudices are.
It's a total gut punch, right? It's like, hello, don't judge a book by its cover.
Totally. That anecdote is like a tiny window into the kind of judgments people face every single day just because of their circumstances.
Mhm.
And it makes you
Yeah.
think, right? Like, how often do we do that without even realizing it?
It's uncomfortable to think about, but Eyre, he doesn't just leave us in that like pit of despair. He talks about how The Maid shows this like incredible ripple effect that even the tiniest acts of kindness can have, especially when someone's going through a rough time.
Right. It's not always about some grand gesture. Sometimes it's those little things that make all the difference.
Totally. He uses that example of the family who gives land housing in exchange for her work. Do you remember that part?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, that was huge for her. It was stability.
It was a chance for her and her daughter to actually breathe for a minute.
Exactly. And this is the thing that always gets me. When that family, their situation changes and they can't support her anymore, lands right back to square one. It's heartbreaking. And it just goes to show how precarious things can be.
It's like that saying, when it rains, it pours. Like you're already barely holding on and then something else comes along and
And it just throws everything off balance.
exactly. But here's the amazing thing about Stephanie Land, at least the way Eyre writes about it. Even with all that going on, she still finds ways to find beauty in the everyday. Did that strike you too?
Oh, absolutely. It's like this really powerful undercurrent through the whole book.
It's like, okay, she's cleaning houses, right? Which, let's be real, not usually what people are dreaming of doing. But Eyre was so struck by how she found these little moments of joy and connection in those really ordinary tasks.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
Totally. And Eyre, he connects that back to mindfulness, like that whole being present in the moment kind of thing.
Which, easier said than done, am I right?
Oh, tell me about it. So I'm curious, like, what did she actually do to make that happen?
So there's this one detail that really stuck with me, and with Eyre, clearly. He talks about how Land gave each of the houses she cleaned a nickname.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and it seems like such a small thing, right? But it really shows how she took this job, which could be so easily seen as like, whatever, and found a way to make it her own.
It's like she found a way to make it meaningful.
Exactly. Instead of just going through the motions, she's creating these little connections, these sparks of joy in the midst of, let's be honest, a really demanding job, both physically and emotionally.
It's like she found a way to take back her power in a situation where it would be so easy to feel powerless.
Yes. And it gets even more interesting because then Eyre hits us with this like totally unexpected lesson from the book. He calls it the unexpected lesson of taxes.
Hold up, did you say taxes?
I did.
I gotta be honest, not exactly the most like riveting part of the story, at least at first glance. What's so fascinating about taxes?
Okay, so it might seem kind of random, but hear me out. Eyre talks about how filing her taxes, which most of us are like, ugh, do I have to,
Hmm.
actually helped Lan get a new car. A car.
Wow, really?
It seems like such a small detail, right? But it totally underscores this thing that we often miss. knowing what resources are out there and actually using them, even when they seem insignificant.
These, like, sometimes those practical things can have the biggest impact on your life, Like, who would have thought taxes could be a life-changing event?
Right. But for land, it totally was. And it's a good reminder for all of us to pay attention to those seemingly little details, to be resourceful, and to advocate for ourselves, especially when things feel really overwhelming.
It's like that whole knowledge is power thing. But it's not just about knowing, it's about doing something with that knowledge.
Exactly. And it really makes you think about all the systemic barriers that make it hard for people to even access those resources in the first place.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other conversation.
Another deep dive for another day. Okay, before we get totally sidetracked, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. Ayer, he talks about that whole book versus movie debate, and he seems to be firmly in the book camp.
He does, doesn't he? And it makes you think, right? Like, how do we consume information? And how does that change depending on the medium?
So you're saying even though the Netflix series brought Land's story to a way bigger audience, it maybe missed some of the, I don't know, the depth that you get from actually reading the book.
Right. Like, Ayer's argument is that reading Land's own words, the way she tells her own story, it hits differently. It's like, imagine seeing a picture of a place versus actually going there. The book, it lets you step into Land's shoes, see the world through her eyes, in a way that a show just can't fully capture.
It's like you can connect with the story on a whole other level when it's coming directly from the person who lived it.
Absolutely. And you know what? Speaking of connecting, there's this other interesting thing that Ayer pointed out. He felt like something was missing, even in the book. Something about the supporting characters, the people around Stephanie Land. Did you get that sense too?
I did. It was like we get glimpses of them, right? But they never really come fully into focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ayer said that while Land's story is obviously the heart of the book, the portrayal of those other characters felt a little, I don't know, underdeveloped. Like their perspectives, their stories, they weren't really explored in the same way as hers.
It's like we're seeing them through her eyes, but maybe not getting the full picture of who they are.
Right. And I think that's a bit of a shame because those other voices, those other experiences, they could have added so much richness to the story. Don't you think? Like, think about some of your favorite books or movies. A lot of times, those supporting characters, they're what really make the story come alive.
It's so true. They bring in those different layers, those different perspectives, and suddenly the whole thing just feels more, I don't know, real.
Right. And in The Maid, like, imagine if we got to hear more from the people who hired Land or her coworkers, or even more from her family members. It could have given us this much deeper understanding of the whole social fabric, the ways that people are connected and disconnected,
Yeah.
especially when they're living on the margins.
It makes you wonder, what are their stories? What would they say if they had the chance to tell it from their point of view?
Totally. And how would those perspectives challenge or reinforce what we learn from Land's experience? I think that's what's so cool about Ayer's take on it. He's not afraid to point out both the strengths and the weaknesses, and he encourages us to do the same, to think critically.
He's not just saying, hey, here's what to think about this book. He's saying, let's have a conversation about it.
Exactly. And I think that's what we try to do here, too. It's not about just presenting information. It's about getting people engaged, getting them thinking and questioning, and maybe even seeing things from a different angle.
Totally. It's so easy to just passively consume stuff, whether it's a book or a movie or even, dare I say, a podcast. But I think Ayer's review, it reminds us that there's always more to uncover.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the real magic happens when you start making those connections, when you see how these stories and experiences, even the tough ones, can actually help us understand ourselves and the world around us better. And maybe even inspire us to do something about it.
Yes, that's what it's all about. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed by all the complexities of poverty and these systemic issues. Like, where do you even start? But Ayer seems to be saying that even small acts of kindness, even just trying to understand, those can make a real difference. What do you think?
I think he's totally right. Remember that ripple effect we were talking about earlier? It all starts with that willingness to open ourselves up to different perspectives, to challenge our own assumptions, and to just approach each other with a little bit of grace.
It's about remembering that everyone, no matter their circumstances, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Exactly. And it's about believing that even those small gestures, they can have a real impact. Like they can create this ripple effect of kindness and compassion that can actually change things for the better.
It's like a little bit of hope goes a long way.
Right. It really does.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be amazing if we could all carry that with us, if we could approach each other with that kind of empathy and understanding?
That's a world I want to live in. Okay, so as we're kind of wrapping up this part of our deep dive into Krishna and Iyer's review of The Maid, I think it's clear that this book and Iyer's insights, they offer us so much more than just a window into one woman's experience.
Right. They're like an invitation to have these bigger conversations about poverty, about resilience, about empathy, about what it really means to be human and connected, even when things are tough.
They challenge us to look inward, to think about our own biases, and then to look outward and see the resilience of the human spirit all around us.
To remember that even in the face of really difficult circumstances, there's always hope. There's always beauty to be found.
Yeah.
And there's always the potential for change.
It's like he's handing us these new glasses, and suddenly we can see things we never even noticed before, like all those little acts of courage and kindness that are happening every day right in front of us.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective, seeing the world through a lens of empathy and compassion. And I think that's what Iyer is really getting at with that question you asked earlier, about what we can actually do to make a difference.
Right, right. Because it's so easy to hear these stories, to feel those feelings, and then just kind of go back to our lives. But this book, The Maid, it's like Iyer is saying, hold on a second. Let's not let this just be a story. Let's actually do something with it.
And that's where the real work begins, right? Like, it's not enough to just feel for people. We have to actually show up for them too.
So how do we do that? What does that look like?
It doesn't have to be some big, grand gesture. Sometimes the smallest things can have the biggest impact. It could be as simple as smiling at the cashier at the grocery store, like really seeing them,
Hmm.
or checking in on a neighbor who might be going through a tough time, or donating to an organization that's doing good work in your community.
It's about recognizing that everyone has a story, and everyone deserves to be treated with kindness and respect, regardless of their circumstances.
Exactly. And even if we haven't walked in someone else's shoes, we can still try to understand where they're coming from. We can still listen with an open heart.
It's like that saying, people might not remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
I love that. And isn't that the kind of world we all want to live in? A world where people feel seen and valued and supported.
Absolutely. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Christian and Iyer's review of The Maid, I'm hoping you're feeling, I don't know, maybe a little less like you just finished a book review and a little more like you just had a really thought-provoking conversation with a friend.
Me too. Because that's what this book and this review, they do. They spark these important conversations, these connections, these reminders that we're all in this together, even when it doesn't feel like it.
And that even in the toughest of times, there's always hope. There's always something to learn. And there's always something we can do to make a difference. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another, deep dive into something awesome.